In 2008, the Rays went to their first World Series. Since then, they've built a winning culture using a methodology that puts the Oakland A's Moneyball to shame. The Tampa Bay Rays are a perfect model of what a franchise should look like in the modern MLB.
Ground ball to second. Kiermeier's got it. Rays are going to the World Series.
Welcome to Landmark Baseball. Today we're going to be talking about the AL champions, the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays finished 40-20 this year, good for first in the AL East, and if it was a 162-game season, they were projected to win 108 games. Only 12 other teams have done that in history. And I don't really think this season came as a surprise to many. For a team whose best players are fringe all-stars, this has become part of tradition in Tampa Bay. The WAR leader was Brandon Lowe with a 2.1 WAR. In just his second season, he made an all-star team in 2019, and he continued his tear into 2020. Without question, the biggest surprise is Randy Arozarena. We'll get to him more in a second. And the losses heading into 2021 aren't that drastic. They're losing Mike Zunino, the catcher, Aaron Loup from the bullpen, and Charlie Morton out of the starting rotation. They'll find someone to fill the catcher role. They have plenty of bullpen arms, and as for the starting rotation, they'll be getting Brendan McKay off of injury back this year, so he'll fill the void that Charlie Morton leaves behind. Still a huge loss for them, but something they can recover from. Overall, though, for this team in 2020, I don't know if anyone saw them going to the World Series as they did, but they definitely were expected to do well, and they definitely exceeded those expectations. Their ability to card count and read the numbers has really put them above any other team. Randy Arozarena, who is their star this year, was their 19th ranked prospect before the season. Speaking of those underrated prospects, let's get into their farm system. This is pretty much the consensus number one farm system in baseball. They hold the number one prospect in the entire league in 19-year-old Wander Franco. He's a switch-hitting shortstop that was signed in 2017. He's quickly risen to the top of every prospect list, getting there almost entirely due to his bat-to-ball skills. I put up some of the scouting grades for him. His hit tool is an 80, on a scale that only goes to 80. And as a 19-year-old who's only going through the lower levels of the minor leagues, he's already shown great power and discipline. Tampa even put him on the World Series roster for 2020. He never saw any action, but that's how highly they view him. There's a high chance he comes up in 2021, and when he does, you're going to hear about it. I could spend a whole video talking about this list, but every single player in this top 10 has the potential to be a very key player on the team. And for a team that already made a World Series in 2020, the Rays are going to be dangerous for a very long time. Speaking of one of those impact prospects, here's Randy Arozarena. Came over last offseason from the Cardinals in a trade for Jose Martinez. He was kind of looked at as one of the side pieces, not really supposed to do much, but he came on the scene in a huge way. He was out for most of this season with COVID and other health-related issues, but when he came up, he was one of the best players in the entire league, not just on the Rays. In just 64 at-bats before the postseason, he had 7 home runs and 11 RBIs. Then in this postseason, we all know what he accomplished. Most hits and home runs by a single player in a postseason run. Completely unprecedented for a guy who wasn't even supposed to be in the major leagues this year. You could say he's one of the sole reasons the Rays even made it as far as they did. And without Randy, we probably don't get this Brett Phillips moment. One of the absolute craziest ends to a game I've ever seen. It's right up there with the David Freese triple and home run to win Game 6 of the 2011 World Series, and right there with the Alan Craig Will Middlebrooks interference call in 2013. This picture of Brett has become iconic. Tampa does seem to kind of fall into runs though. The real heroes of this team are the pitching staff. The starting rotation trio of Snell, Morton, and Glasnow are elite, but the bullpen's what gets it done. Manager Kevin Cash doesn't like to let his starters go past like 5 or 6 innings, so he relies heavily on the bullpen, and for good reason. Year after year, there's always new stars in this bullpen. This year's emerging elite was Psycho Pete Fairbanks. But by no means is this a top-heavy bullpen. Nick Anderson had a .55 ERA, Pete Fairbanks 2.7 ERA, Aaron Loup 2.5 ERA, Castillo 1.66 ERA, John Curtis 1.8, Yanni Chirinos 2.38, Ryan Sheriff 0. There are guys in this bullpen that would be the second or third option on a team, but on this team they're the 7th option in some cases. They know the situations to put their guys in and they execute it. The longest tenured player on the Rays is Kevin Kiermeier. He's been around since 2013. But these Tampa teams get built so quickly and built so well that they have such a high turnover rate at their positions. They bring in these undervalued guys like Ji-Man Choi and Mike Brasso and turn them into stars. Every player on this team has a key role to play in their matchups and how they execute every day. The Rays are going to be around for a long time. They operate entirely based on numbers. The way they do matchups, the way they do shifts, pitching changes, lineup changes, everything is very calculated. This team has the lowest budget in all of baseball, and this should be the model for every single MLB team. If you want to maximize your wins, you gotta do what the Rays are doing. Thanks for watching, guys. Follow on Twitter and Instagram, hit subscribe, like the video, tune in for the next one. We're going to be talking about the Nationals.